We have 5 big news stories about Tesla today. First, news agencies in China are reporting that Giga Shanghai will start production of the new revised Model Y, codenamed Juniper. Second, Tesla just announced they've officially stopped selling the Foundation series of the Cybertruck in the US. The general public can now order the sub-$80,000 Cybertruck dual-motor all-wheel drive and the $100,000 tri-motor Cyberbeast off of Tesla's US website. Third, as Tesla showed off its new wireless charging technology, a debate arose as some said this will not work very well at all and will take too long. Well, both Tesla and Elon Musk weighed in, confirming that Tesla's technology can actually achieve 90% efficiency. It's looking like wireless charging is real and it's about to change our world. Fourth, it looks like the US National Safety Agency has opened a probe of Tesla's full self-driving software in 2.4 million cars after 4 reports of crashes due to sun glare, fog, or dust that reduces roadway visibility. And finally, Tesla's Q3 earnings report is this Wednesday. What should we expect? We got Jeff Lutz with us. Jeff is a ex-CVP of Supply Chain and Chief Quality Officer, and now CEO of his own supply chain consulting firm. Thank you, Jeff.
Hey, Herbert. A lot of fun stuff happening, actually. This is a really busy time of year. We have earnings coming up and just a lot going on.
Earnings is literally a few days away, and we just finished the 1010 We Robot event. Beautiful shirt, by the way, Jeff. Great shirt. Love it.
Thanks.
Okay, so this is news, obviously a big one. According to the news agencies in China, Giga Shanghai is going to start producing, they called it the closed loop of the new Model Y next week. Initial production won't be too much. When he was at Tesla, Chan does a great job of sharing information that's released by news reports in China. And I think he explained that closed loop, and I know you know a lot about this, it means that they basically have inside the factory, they're trying to make it that nobody's aware that it's actually happening in the production lines. What's your understanding of this, Jeff?
Yeah, these are reports, not officially from the company. The company won't, again, want to report on this until they're available to order and deliver, actually, because they don't want anybody pausing and ordering the current Model Y, nor should anybody, because none of this has been confirmed. You know, there's things that could happen, by the way, between the start of production and the availability of the vehicle. They could find a problem as they get to greater scale. They could find a software issue if there's been any, software timing, if there's new electromechanical items in the vehicle. They could have a software issue that they have to work on, or a hardware issue. So nobody should take this to like it's just automatically going to happen in this short duration or period of time. And again, I think Tesla will want to speak about this, when they're actually rolling off the line. One of the things I found interesting, if that is indeed the light bar detail on the back, this is an evolution from the new refresh Model 3. This isn't a direct lift up. It looks like they've evolved it further. And it looks like to me that between the new Model 3 and then the Cybercab that we saw, like this is to me like some interim state of, this is the further on the path of evolution of we want to light up that whole rear with one continuous piece. So this looks like the evolution between the older vehicles, the refresh Model 3, and eventually the Cybercab. And this is a step in, along the way. It looks nice. It looks futuristic, and it's a real, the front fascia and the rear fascia are real two, remarkable ways to really make the newer vehicle stand out.
Yeah. So what we're seeing here is just a concept by Dominic BRNKMN, but based on the spy shots that was seen. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I think it's great when you see these new back. That means that you can tell right away that's a new version, not the old version. And then people will want to upgrade to the new version. Like the Model 3, when it was revised, it just has the word Tesla spelled out now versus not having it. And of course, a lot of little changes, big changes, but it's hard to see the differences except for that in the back. And now I think that if you can see this so clearly, people are going to want to upgrade. So this morning, Alex said this: the Tesla Model Y will be the best seller of all vehicles in Europe in September, taking the top spot in monthly sales for the second time this year. The second best sales is 8,000 units away. Elon replied saying, Model Y bestseller in Europe, probably the world. So it's what's the risk? I mean, this is the bestseller, so they can't screw this up. But it's unlikely, right? Because they already did the revision of the Model 3, and so they kind of already know what's working and what's not, right?
Yeah, and what's really important here for companies is to get the channel inventory moved and to not have to do a lot of what's called PP or price protection moves on the product and inventory. And this is where I think Tesla is really good at. There's a couple other companies that are very good at it. If you're not good at this could create tremendous risk in terms of product and channel. So I could potentially see Tesla coming out and say, look, we'll comment on our production when we're ready to do anything you see, any speculation you see out there. Or maybe they won't comment at all, but they have to be very protective about Osborning the current Model Y and channel, because I mean, this is by far the number one running, they're producing hundreds of thousands of these a quarter. And you can just do the math on the production per day globally at all the plants. And this would be a very, very dangerous product to have any kind of issue of, again, ramping down the old product and then ramping up the new version. You really want to eliminate the product and channel. You want to eliminate the piece parts that are upstream from the Tesla factories as well. You want those pulled through. You want those put into production. So this isn't a given. This isn't a slam dunk. And if it's not managed well, you could see literally billions of dollars of movement on the balance sheet in a negative direction, whether it's in the form of inventory, whether it's in the form of obsolescence. So this is something Tesla wants to manage very carefully. I think we should be very clear. This is not official from Tesla, as you stated, Herbert. These are reports in China, and you'll have to see what that means. And again, this is, and in the US, we knew that there was like it was over a 6-month difference in availability, right? I think between the Model 3 in Asia and Europe and the Model 3 in the US, there was a significant time gap in between the two. So I would await Tesla's announcement, and again, the management of the old to the new is very important here.
Yeah, but brilliantly, they launched the revision of the Model 3, 50% new parts. They're going to do a lot of reuse, right? So when they do this Model Y revision, a lot of what they did Model 3 should make it over there, right? So it's less risk.
Yeah. Less
Broader
risk going up, but not less risk coming down, because if they're going to more new Model 3 parts, there's going to be no home for the old Model Y parts. So they've really got to ramp down the product and channel, and they've got to ramp down the material upstream from the factories too. So this is this is almost like changing the wheels on the plane while it's in flight kind of thing.
Final question is October 21st, right timing to do this? Obviously, I wouldn't expect them to release this new version until January, right? Wouldn't be done in Q4.
No, it could be. I mean, it all depends how it flows through the factory. I think it is the right time, especially if it hits Chinese New Year. I think this is good. This is good timing. It's almost never a good time to take down your top running product in the factory, but Shanghai is going to run all the way through the end of the year unless there's some mishap. It's not like they shut down for any holiday breaks or any like US holiday breaks at the end of the year. So it's actually a good time to do the transition there. And the question will be is how do they do this transition back to the United States and build this in eventually in Fremont and Austin? Will it be a smoother transition than the Model 3 last year? I think there'll be something to watch.
Interesting. Okay. Another big news is Tesla has officially stopped selling the Foundation Series Cybertruck in the US. So now the general public, you can order the $79,990 Cybertruck dual motor all-wheel drive and the $99,990 tri-motor Cyber Beast off of Tesla's US website. You can now order either of them, all-wheel drive or the Cyber Beast, $80,000 or $100,000. And Cyber Joe asked the question, does that mean anyone who had a reservation for Cybertruck Foundation Series that paid $100 but $250 deposit has now been canceled? I delayed my purchase until January, so hopefully that is being honored. And it's sort of confirmed that any reservation holder will get priority over a non-reservation holder. Anybody who has a pre-existing Foundation Series order will get a Foundation Series. Yeah, What's your thought about this? I was actually shocked because I thought that they would continue the Foundation series at least through the end of the year as they were going global. But apparently, yeah,
Yeah,
they're
it
not.
tells me that they're ramping up pretty well and they're figuring out the cost side pretty quickly because the difference between the two, there were a lot of high gross margin accessory items in the Foundation series order. Obviously, FSD, very high gross margin. That's in that part of the order. These hardware accessories are also very high gross margin orders. So when you merge the high gross margin piece of it, if it's $20,000, $15,000 of, it could be $10,000 of cost, whatever the number is for Tesla, and you merge that with the not so high gross margin side of the vehicle, that's how you get that offset, and that's what's helped Tesla during this ramp period. And that's what you do as a company. You try to build the most feature rich, complex offering in the beginning to get your line, to shake out your lines and to shake out the cost piece of it, because you're literally gonna you're gonna exercise everything in the process of doing that, and you're gonna also recoup the highest gross margin on the sales side, and then they can start working on the lower cost trims now as they transition on to Foundation series. I'm happy to see that they're doing this is an October thing versus a December January thing.
Mm-hmm.
It tells me that they figured out some of this stuff earlier, and the demand was. I mean, this is the number one selling EV. It sold more than I think all the EV trucks combined, and it's $100,000, at least in the Foundation series. That's the average price, selling price is at least 100, if not more, on the Foundation series, and we're just getting off of that now. So, I mean, I would think from a price sensitivity perspective that to now have that offering at $80K, and maybe some people can take advantage of the $7,500 tax incentive or some of the state tax incentives. I have to think that would have a nice bump on demand and allow Tesla to continue to go up, the ramp curve. And then again, this is only the United States and Canada and Mexico. They haven't even opened it up globally, so there's a lot of pent up demand for this product. Again, this is one of those products too. I'm an owner, and I'm very happy with the purchase. It is the smoothest driving Tesla. It is the easiest Tesla to drive with the four-wheel steering. Believe it or not, it's the largest Tesla, but it's the easiest one to park, if that makes sense, with the four-wheel steering. I just completed a 9-hour, each way road trip over, the weekend, and it was flawless. It was great. FSD is great on the highways. It's great in the city. And it's just a very comfortable vehicle to road trip in, or so anyway, my commercial's over for the Cybertruck. I think the takeaway here is they're coming down the cost curve and they're going up the ramp curve in volume, and this is a positive, favorable sign for the product, and it's receiving very well. It's received very well by customers, and you can see it in the sales data.
Is it too early for you to give me a guess on when you might see the $60,000 version?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would have to think that would be in the second half of the following year. But let's see. These Tesla's going to have this very long list of engineering and supply chain changes. They're called event-driven changes, and these are going to be changes to the design of parts or the process to make parts, or they're going to add suppliers that want to come in with a more competitive bid. And that takes time to qualify those and get them put into the line. And then as they get more and more scale and volume, every one of their suppliers is going to go down the cost curve, and they're going to go up the yield curve. Mm-hmm. And that's going to allow them to make more money. And then, then Tesla can come in and now renegotiate. It's hard to go in. It's more difficult to renegotiate with your supplier partner when they're struggling on yields. But as they have the ability to come up that curve, you can go in now and you can start recapturing that. So they're going to have tremendous leverage, and they have this tremendous new product leverage ahead of them. They're refreshing the Model Y, reportedly. They're the interim 25K vehicles coming, the Cybercab coming. I mean, they have tremendous leverage. Even Optimus, I'm sure some of the mechanical part, there could be mechanical part leverage with the cameras, for example, are leveraged with the car. there could be a lot of leverage between the vehicle and Optimus. So if you're in the sourcing procurement world in Tesla, you have a hard job because of the number of products you're building and the kind of scale, but you also have probably the best for a procurement person, the best CEO to have on your side, which is Elon, who can help you on cost, who can help you with any supply bottlenecks. And you also have honestly, one of the most exciting product portfolios in any industry. And any supplier is going to want to be part of that because Tesla has demonstrated excellence. They now have the number one selling truck. So if you're making parts for EV trucks, there's no truck you want to get. There's no partner you want to work with more than Tesla because they sell more than anybody. And if you're making a car, any car, combustion or EV, there's nobody else you want to work with. You want to get on the Model Y because you get one part award on the Model Y. Your business gets the most amount of volume for one part investment inside of your business. So you do one capital investment to make one part, and your sales will be higher on that one part investment and your return than any other car you could be awarded. So why wouldn't you want to do that? So you're in a tough position if you're doing procurement at Tesla because of the workload, but you're in a great position from a leverage perspective.
Yep. Very quickly, I remember something you've been saying for so long, which is actually it's brilliant for Tesla. The reason why the Cybertruck is so important is because it's small volume. They can afford to make mistakes, which I'm sure they did in the first 10 months, but it's got all the new technology, 48 volt, steer by wire and others that's going to go into these mass produce lower vehicles, compact car, Cybercab and all that. And so they're testing it. The more successful Cybertruck is, the more they ramp up, the more they're prepared for the higher volume cars. You were talking about that a while back ago, so it's just brilliant. So talking about new technology, one of the big ones is this robo-taxi wireless charging that they showed off. They've been promoting this quite a bit here. I'm going to take off the music here. Basically, you can see that it's exactly what we had expected from the patents, right? The car just drives right over. It's contactless over a pad, and then it's charging complete, and it's done, and then you move away. So the big concern people had about this was that, it's impossible. This is something that's not going to be efficient at all. And apparently the Cybercabs do not have a charge port. So it's all going to be the wireless only. This guy, Christian Selig, said, hold up, it doesn't even touch the car. Generally asking, is there a way this couldn't be inefficient? I mean, the concern everybody had was, this is no way it's possible. It's going to be efficient. Marcus Brownlee, of course, one of the largest YouTubers out there. I don't know. He's been out there saying a lot of things that doesn't seem to be right. And he said, nope, wireless charging has a massive heat waste. A really noble goal for something like this would be maybe 75% efficiency. He's saying there's no way that this can be good. And then obviously readers added the context, community notes, wireless charging can achieve efficiency above 90%. When Tesla bought a company called Whitetricity, they had on their website saying that they can do 90%. Tesla bought that company. And then Tesla themselves replied back directly to Marcus saying efficiency is well above 90%. Wow. This is Tesla official account officially saying that wireless technology, their wireless is well above 90%. Marcus Brownlee, okay, you got schooled, dude. And Elon Musk himself said there is no meaningful efficiency difference between inductive and conductive charging if the system is designed right. There is always an inductor somewhere in the charge circuit. He's again confirming that even if it's wireless, it shouldn't theoretically be able to do it if it was done right, designed right. So this is massive. This is a confirmation that it can be 90% efficiency, Jeff. I mean, this is going to change everything if it's almost as good as wired charging. Just drive over something.
I find it interesting that, this is a company that's demonstrated where if there's any kind of resistance or blockage in terms of the kind of performance they need, they dig in and they do it themselves. Even, some recent examples of, there were issues with lithium hydroxide and refining capacity and the costs are going through the roof. Like, fine, we'll build our own refinery. And of course, the most famous and closest example to this is the performance required and the cost required to do inference in the vehicle. And they went out there and they saw the different solutions. And yeah, there were solutions. They were using NVIDIA before this. But they decided that over the time horizon, over hundreds of millions of vehicles and the performance required, they need a specially designed chip. And so they assembled a chip design team to go and do that work. And they kept everything down to the laws of physics. And they, even today, as most recently as a few months ago, they say they can't, if they wanted to go out in the market and buy a better inference chip for the price, they could not do it. And so I struggle, like when all these like there's product review, no disrespect, but like there's product reviewers and people that write for Wired magazine or whatever saying they think they understand wireless charging. There is a huge physics, electrical engineering component to this work. And who better is he, in terms of putting objectives and goals in front of the team and trying to understand and break everything down, the first principles, who better? And obviously they did some pretty, interesting acquisitions in this space, probably for IP and know-how. And Elon's right. There's always an inductor somewhere in the loop, whether you're doing contact wired charging or wireless charging. And the question is, in that loop, what kind of efficiency can you garner? And then what Tesla did, I'm sure, with these acquisitions is instead of going out on the market and going to Infineon or going to NXP, who do a lot of the wireless chips in this space, they went out and they probably designed their own, is what I'm gathering. And again, they took that margin component out of the equation and like, this is the performance we need. It's fit for purpose. This is the kind of performance. And if they're well over 90% charging, I mean, this is tremendous performance. This is a game changer. And obviously we need to see this in production. We need to see it in volume. But this is one of those things where if you can kind of get it right in the lab, there should be, this is one of those things where as they miniaturize it, which they, unlike a phone and unlike, your earbuds in your ear, this is a little bit more, there's a little bit more space in the vehicle to get this properly packaged. You have to do this massive miniaturization. But when I kind of wrapped this whole story up and I saw the post going back and forth on X, I'm like, out of due respect, like, who are these people that honestly question, let Tesla come out with like, this is our approach, this is our plan, this is how we're going to do it, versus saying like, oh, this is what I've seen in the industry, and the best you'll get is this. I'm like, well, this is the Tesla team. If they went with everything that was existing in the industry, you'd have cars that cost $50,000 to build. You'd be using Mobileye, you'd be using everybody else's off-the-shelf solution, and you'd be using this is not Tesla's. Mm-hmm. And this is another example of Tesla applying their know-how. I would say probably down to the silicon level on this, and then designing the whole system in loop from the ground up. Remember, Tesla builds their own motors and inverters for a decade. What's inside of these motors? Copper windings. What are they trying to do? They're trying to drive massive efficiency, power into this motor to power out of the motor. What is this system? This is a charging system where you've got a transmitter, you've got a receiver, and you've got an inductance loop. I mean, this is what they know how to do. This is in their wheelhouse. So I don't doubt them at all here.
Appreciate that. So just to confirm a few things, it looks like that when you look at the video, the screen shows a charging speed of 25 kilowatt hours for the Cybercab, and a lot of people say that that's too slow, but it's, according to Sawyer, he doesn't think it is. Cybercabs will have a battery about 50% smaller than a Model Y's, so 25 kilowatt is nearly 2.2 times faster than Tesla's home wall connector. Charges at speeds of 11.5 kilowatts. A Cybercab doesn't need to charge at 250 kilowatts. Okay, and here's why. If you need to take long trips, the Model Y and 3s exist. A vast majority of these taxi trips are short than 10 miles. To be able to do these things, it's 75% are shorter than 2.6 miles. So you can just do a bunch of small rides. The average Uber ride is under 6 miles. Probably be able to fully charge within 2 hours or so. But even 36 minutes, 60 minutes of charging will be enough at times. Majority of Cybercabs will be part of Tesla's own fleet rather than owned by individual consumers. Faster speeds won't be necessary if the fleet is big enough. And it doesn't have a physical charging point. This lowers cost, makes it easier to manufacture. Tesla stock shared this at 10 to 20 miles per hour with 200-mile range, operating for 5 to 10 hours, recharging in 1 hour intervals in low demand times. Exactly. So you have to have a lot of these places where it can just drive over. And I bet you because it's wireless, the pad, you can probably put that in more places than if you had to, have a charging point. You can just put it a lot of different places, even like parking spots or something like that. But anyways, you can see he shared this that here's the peak times for Uber traffic, average trip duration, basically saying that this is very possible. We'll take a look at it. Okay, so a big story.
Just to make a quick comment on that, what Tesla Talk did is the right approach of building a utilization denominator for this, and how is the product actually going to be used versus how people perceive that their product is used today. Yeah. And the Cybercab will operate at lower speeds, and this is signature Tesla. If design the system to the performance that's required versus over designing something for some box spec that's not useful, this is how they manage their cost.
I love that point, because everybody thought I want my Model 3 to have 500 miles, and they said nope. We're going to keep the cost down, we're going to keep the battery small, you don't need anything more than 300. And they were right. If they had just 500 miles, the cost would be so high. This is possibly a big deal, and you could tell me if you think it isn't, but it's NHTSA. It's now going to probe Tesla's full self-driving software. They confirmed that there's 2.4 million cars in the US. There was 4 crashes, it looks like. 4 reports of crashes where FSD was engaged during reduced roadway visibility, so sun glare, fog, or airborne dust. 2016 to 2024 Model S and X vehicles with the optional system, as well as the 2017 to 2024 Model 3s, Model Y, Cybertrucks. I think it's almost all of them. The preliminary evaluation is the first step before the agency could seek to demand a recall of the vehicles. Again, it's not going to be a recall, it's software, if they believe they pose an unreasonable risk to safety. So Tesla says full self-driving is on software in on-road vehicles requires active driver supervision, does not make vehicles autonomous. So just that alone, it's not like, they're very clear. You have supervision. So who caused that accident? So this is just to see the actual investigation. These are the affected products. And then this guy said no car on the road uses the version of the software that was active during any of those crashes. So that's interesting, because the software continues to improve anyway. So how did they do that? This affects no current Tesla cars in the road. And then I like what Tesla Boomer Papa said. He said, hey, okay, you're going to investigate for these 4 accidents. What about the 42,000 car deaths per year in the US from all the other car companies? Is NHTSA investigating all of those? Why not? There's 15,000 car accidents per day in the US. Is NHTSA investigating all those? If not, why not? Yeah, great points.
Yeah. These are great points. The number of Teslas on the road is becoming a very big number. And I think as FSD improves, you're going to see the rate of people using FSD, per total miles driven go up dramatically. My example, I was probably using it 30% of the time last year on V11. And now at this point, I'm probably using it 90% of the time on the latest, 12.x release, because it's just that much better. So I think it's okay for NHTSA to want to keep an eye on these things to understand if there's anything systemic. I think having another set of eyes isn't a bad thing. But, Boomer Papa's points are correct. You have to keep these things in perspective with, well, what are the available options for people that need to get from point A to point B, and how safe are they? And at the end of the day, you want to eliminate problems that are logic in nature. So if there's a logic problem where, if the sun is at a certain intensity or a certain angle, or there's, X% of dust coverage over the lens of the camera, I'm making stuff up, but there's things I'm seeing from this notice. Well, you'd want to address logic issues and make sure that the system is safer. At the same time, non-Tesla vehicles without FSD are also exposed to those elements, and how safe are they? And you don't want to make the Tesla come off of FSD if that actual solution is actually safer than somebody driving in those conditions. So, and then in terms of the software version, if NHTSA is looking for a specific prescription of like, I don't think it should engage in these conditions or XYZ, they're going to go back and forth on data. And if there's something that change in software, they'll change it, and it'll just be a new version, just like Tesla's done this before. So you're always concerned when you see accidents. We don't know the time period that these occurred, and we don't understand all the conditions per se. But if you could, meaningfully reduce it, and Tesla's doing this. We know that they're doing this. We know that they're continuing to work on active safety and make the system safer. So I just think we need to keep an eye on this. At the end of the day, would NHTSA take a system that is meaningfully safer? We've seen at least 6x, maybe 10x safer in terms of miles driven between having a collision or accident between a Tesla and FSD and not. I don't think, that would just not be logical. And so we hopefully we have people in government in these agencies that are acting logical and looking at the broader data set. At the same time, if there's a specific logic issue and they can call it out and negotiate with Tesla, okay, right. Let's look at it and understand it.
Yep. So, the comparison should be the safety rate, or the more accidents probably happen when there's reduced visibility like fog and dust and so forth with humans. And so compare that with the system. What's interesting is Ashok Swami used this example a year and a half ago when he did his big presentation. He said that FSD with the neural nets can actually identify fog. It knew that it was fog, just like humans could do it with your vision. Like, this looks like fog. So I'm confident that Tesla will be able to get that even better than humans eventually in the future. So talking about Ashok Swami, Ed Ludlow presented this last week that several of Tesla's lieutenants were actually promoted last week. Ashok is now vice president of Autopilot. Milan Kovac is now vice president of Optimus. And also Omyed Ashfar is also now a vice president of sales. You said hierarchical promotions are a sign of deep bench along with remarkable performance. Ashok and Milan can continue to elevate their teams. Tesla's AI future is bright. You want to quickly just comment on that? Yeah.
It drew me back to the day that my management approached me and said, we're elevating you to vice president, and here come they're called golden handcuffs for a reason. And it's an interesting feeling because they want to retain you and they want you to grow inside of the company and they want you to grow other leaders inside of the company. And these are slapping golden handcuffs on these two individuals because the rewards and the compensation structure can meaningfully change when you get to those levels, and both of these people should be getting rewarded. And what's nice is they were both directors in their various areas. Now they're elevated to vice president, and they've got a great compensation package probably in front of them, and with goals and milestones and things that can align to a bright future for Tesla. But then they can elevate the next set of directors inside of Tesla. And that's what you want. You want people to come into a company and say, well, my management is growing. They just went to the next level. Oh, wow, I'm doing a really good job. I'm busting, my rear, and I'm doing really good things, meaningful things. And wow, he just pulled me up by my shirt and brought me up to the next level. That's exactly what you want. And and while I'd love to see Tesla hire and continue to hire some great talent from the outside too, because sometimes that's needed, these promotions are a real sign of strength. This says that we're bringing you to the next level, and and what Ashok and Milan can do is turn around and look at their teams and say, all right, who's the next director of Autopilot? Who's the next director of robotics software? And elevate those people. And then those people will elevate their teams. This is a great thing. This is one of the best news stories about Tesla last week was this. This is very good news for Tesla. It's very good news for stability of the management team. These two gentlemen have been there for a period of time. And what Tesla is doing is saying, this is the best place to work. We're going to compensate you for it. We want to recognize your accomplishments, and we want to see you develop your team. We want the next Ashok. We want the next Milan. And I mean, this is one of the best for me. This is one of the best stories because it really, to me, drives an era of stability, and also that they really know how to develop their teams.
Yeah, Tesla's maturing into the next stage. So this Wednesday, 2 days from now, we're going to have the Tesla earnings report. I know we don't have much time here, but I'd love to get your feedback. Here are the 7 questions, or the questions that have risen up. Of course, this will not be the final one yet as people vote. If you vote on these questions, depending on how many shares are represented, these questions shift. Is Tesla still on track to deliver the most affordable model next year? The more affordable model next year, as mentioned by Elon earlier. How does it align with your AI and product roadmap? When can we expect Tesla to give us a 25,000 non-robotaxi regular car model? Seems like the same question. What is Tesla doing to alleviate long waiting times on service centers? What a waste of a question. When will Tesla incorporate X and Grok in all of the Tesla vehicles? What's going on with the Tesla Roadster? Please provide an update on the Semi. What's the plan for 2025? Oh my God, that's crazy. Such a broad question. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, there's 2 useful questions in there, and that's about the top one, and hopefully they, instead of just saying are you on track, it'd be more, can you ask more direct questions of, what quarter do you plan to start production, or what quarter do you plan to start delivery of this vehicle? I think is the best. People need to think about their questions and think about, am I giving them a question that is so direct that they may not answer it because it becomes a product question? Or am I giving them a question so broad that I'm not going to get a really good, meaningful response? And you kind of got to pick somewhere in the middle of being direct. But yeah, don't ask about, the service centers, and because you're not, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's good for Tesla to get visibility on this, but I guarantee you they know the wait times. They have all this information tracked. Tesla has amazing internal software and information, and they know this. And the question is, anyway, we could probably get some better questions, but I think the questions around the affordable model are probably most pertinent. And earnings, it's a big deal for Tesla still. I think now the earnings, for me, the big takeaway is there anything they can say about gross margins bottoming? But more importantly, that page 10 in the earnings deck, in the last earnings deck, they talked about the more affordable model and their plans for that. Is there any updates to that? And that's kind of question 1, but that's page 10 in the deck. So it seems like they've taken the earnings calls, and now, everybody's looking at the We Robot event and saying, are they going to show these new interim models? I'm like, no, it's in the earnings deck. It's a near-term thing. This event was really about something you're not going to order, and it's not going to replace or Osborne anything in the portfolio today. These vehicles that are going to be building in the interim, they're going to probably update them on the earnings call. So you're not going to get the product release on earnings call, but you'll probably get some updates on where they stand. And my guess on Juniper is you're not going to get any update. Yeah. Juniper is such an Osborne risk that thing is going to go into production, and it's going to be on the website. And that's why Model 3 went on the website on January 12th of earlier this year, is directly to the website, is they did not want to Osborne the existing vehicle.
Okay, thank you so much, Jeff. So on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, we're going to be holding an earnings call preview, and then we're going to show you the actual earnings call and do a post analysis of that. I've got the best analysts, including Jeff, joining us. So join us on this channel for a live stream of that earnings call this Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Follow Jeff on X. Check him out at the Jeff Lutz. Subscribe to him. Check out he shares a lot of detailed information before things happen. He seems to call it correctly. Thanks, Jeff. See you soon.
Their guesses. Bye. Yeah, thank you.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.